the topic this morning is a little standard in some ways, and in other ways exceptional, which is exactly the story of Ngondro. It's common to begin with, but then as we go more deeper into what it's attempting to do for us, it becomes quite profound. And in some ways, it was not easily given out, although I've never heard of Ngondro being considered secret, but it wasn't something that people were encouraged to jump into from the beginning, because it requires something. It requires an understanding of what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. And there's a basic lay of the land that needs to be understood. It needs to be part of our approach. So we need to really look into certain things before we jump into a practice like Ngondro. We start, as always, with what is it that we're trying to accomplish here? What is the goal? What are we trying to do? Because we're invited into a tremendous amount of effort. So what is the accomplishment? And for that, we have to really explore and understand the concept that is presented within Buddhism, which is what the potential of our humanity is. That's the first thing we have to address, to recognize that according to Buddhist practice, essentially our basic nature, our essential basic nature is awakened mind. That's ours. We all have this, and it is blissful, and it is the deepest wisdom that allows our experience, our consciousness, to move in different ways, to understand itself in different ways. This requires a certain degree of openness and study. But we have to look at it. We have to explore this, and we have to admit that we have to have the confidence that we indeed possess this potential, that it's ours. So we start there with this recognition that our potential is awakened mind, and that through our own effort, we are able to realize this potential. It's like an acorn. Its potential is to be an oak tree. And with the right amount of elements and degrees of protection, that acorn can become a noble oak. So like that, it's what's in potential within us. An awakened mind is our basic potential, our human potential. So we start this by exploring that, by looking into it. Now, when I encourage people who come to me and ask, I want to know more about Buddhist practice, I want to know more about this practice, this tar dance practice. How do I make the most of it? How do I really get to the heart of it? Because from my perspective, the dancing is just a piece of what we have going on here. And it took me years to uncover how this path is methodical and through the dance can be realized. So this is my reference. This is what I'm sharing with you, how we realize that. So we start by exploring the idea of inner wisdom, really reflecting on it, really seeing, can I accept this? Can I understand? Can I work with this? That I'm seeking out this consciousness within myself, and that I want to realize it. Now, coupled with this is the understanding, according to these teachings, that along with the wisdom of our inner understanding. Our inner understanding is based on these modes of perception that I call dimensions of consciousness. So we have the dimension of consciousness as if we were inhabiting a human body, and in relation to all the other things that are around us and the way they present themselves and all of the experiences that we have. That's one mode of consciousness. We also have a mode of consciousness of what I call light, sound, and vibration. This is our ability to imagine, to use the imagination. But that also couples with dreams and the Bardo state when we die. In other words, we can experience ourselves as being in a body of light, in a body that is made up of light, sound, and vibration, but it doesn't have gravity and it doesn't have density. So in its experience, it's very different. And according to these teachings, each of these dimensions of consciousness in the practices that we do are transformed from our normal way of experiencing birth, death, the bardos. The practices themselves allow us to have these experiences in preparation for the death of this body, so that we swiftly recognize and realize the final dimension of consciousness, which is ultimate mind. Ultimate mind, the vastness, it's represented often by space. It is, we have it communicated to us as timeless. And what it is presented to us in these teachings is something that we open ourselves to and that we have the option to experience. But we can only prepare the ground. We cannot, it's not something we can force. It's not something we can buy into. It's not in any way methodical in the sense that it can occur at any moment. We can organize ourselves to be receptive to this. And this is one of the extraordinary aspects of tantric practice, is that by, in very methodical ways, we open ourselves to the mind, the vastness of the mind's possibilities, that in the association with a deity such as Tara, we experience this. And what could take, according to older Buddhist practices, Theravada Buddhist practices, millennia, eons, can occur in just a few years. So it's an extraordinary practice that we are encountering, this practice of Tantra, of Tibetan, of Vajrayana. It's extraordinary. So, and we, at any moment, the mind can drop into this awakened state. We are just stimulating ourselves. We're lining ourselves. We're aligning ourselves, which is what we're invited to do through these practices. Now, in order for it to be accomplished, in order for this awakening to occur, we have to have a groundwork, a foundation. This is why engaging or moving toward the Ngondro practice, before we even get there, we need to establish why we are doing this. And it has to be a bigger picture than just because I want to be the best I can be, which is good. We want, that's part of it. We definitely want to have that sensation because we are developing a relationship. We are developing a persona that allows us to imagine, to use the power of our imagination, to encounter awakened mind. So starting with determining why we're doing this, not only for our own sake, there's also the understanding that ultimate mind has to do with the vastness of everything arising within it, so that we recognize our interconnectivity with all beings, with everything that exists. That's part of our awakening. And in recognizing this, then, we also know that in order for us to achieve a blissful state, we need to establish everybody else in a blissful state as well. It's just automatic. It occurs. We know this when we encounter each other, whenever we're in the presence of someone who is struggling. It is automatic that we want to lift them up, that we want to help them. This is a natural occurrence. And so engaging in this way, we determine this practice that we're doing allows us to help anyone that comes within our presence, because we're opening ourselves, first of all, to our interconnectivity. And then secondly, when we do that, there is a radiance that occurs. And this we use throughout our practice, this understanding of the radiance that we can manifest, the radiance of love. We'll call it compassion, because that's the most common word in this practice, compassion. So when we recognize this, that we are interconnected, and that we compassionately wish to bring others into the blissful state that we can experience through these practices, then this is our motivation. So we seek out skill, and we seek out potency, because in order to accomplish any of this, it takes a certain amount of energy. We have to really be able to hold a space, to concentrate, to persist, to be generous. We have to have energy to be patient. The 6 perfections that we explore through this journey, we need energy in order to accomplish them. And so in order to generate this energy, we engage in these practices. This is part of the method. So to start to open our gathering together, I would like us to dance the prayer of motivation. Now try as much as you can to imagine you're sending your intent, you're telling every cell of your body, your intention is to manifest wisdom, to radiate loving compassion, and to be skillful and powerful in your encounters with each other, so that you can bless each other, so that you can empower each other. Every aspect of these practices that we do together has a profound effect on our mind, profound effect. So even if you've heard these words 100 times, you haven't heard them enough. We say them over and over because we want to bring all of our energy together. We don't want it to be diffused or dispersed into distraction. Try as much as possible to concentrate on exactly what we are saying and moving to. We're enlisting the power of the body by dancing. We're enlisting the body. We're enlisting the sound element as well as the mind. So I'm going to join Miri, and she's going to turn on the music. Let's dance the prayer of motivation.
I am
in our lineage. Now, this Ngondro practice, the reason that I've put this together was Lama Tenzin, who was my first teacher and guide, told me repeatedly all the various things I needed to do, which I thought were impossible. I couldn't imagine. But somehow he kept saying, he told me, create a Ngondro practice. Tatara, because the Ngondro practices are mostly the central figure is a male. And I said, many of the women that I work with are not going to be excited about this. He said, well, make Tara Ngondro. So here we have it. Okay, after we've established this motivation, we're going to cultivate this a little further. The next thing that we need to do is we have to establish sources of refuge. We have to know what inspires us, who inspires us, what teachings inspire us, what enlightened beings inspire us, what community of practice inspires us. Inspiration is fuel. So we really need that fuel, but we also need this sense that there is an array of radiant light beings that are here to support our journey. This is something we need to cultivate. Again, look into it. It doesn't mean that you have to you don't have to sign any dotted lines on this, but you do need to cultivate these relationships and know that you have them. Because as we explore our condition, our situation, our circumstance, we have to see how favorable this circumstance is. We have sources of inspiration. This is fantastic. There are people who are totally depressed and have no sense of inspiration. It's really essential that we cultivate sources of inspiration and to know that there are those who support our journey, who support this kind of journey, because there's plenty of individuals who are in families and in circumstances where their spiritual life is not supported. So we need to recognize who this is and invoke them. Tara is there for all of us. She's there for all of us. No matter how we feel about her, no matter how we think about her, she's there. As soon as we turn towards her, she's there for us. One of the metaphors that I often use in reference to someone like Tara, she's made a determination. She will remain until we're all free. So it's like the sun. If you turn your back on the sun and stand in your own shadow, you say that there's no light. In order to receive what the sun has to offer, you need to turn and face it. And it's the same thing with these light beings, with these radiant light beings. You have to face them, invoke them, develop a relationship with them. So this is an important part of this practice, is refuge. Understanding that there's a lineage of teachings. I received this information from so many great masters. Even now, one of the pieces that I'm working with, a beautiful commentary by Lama Yeshe. Now, he wrote a book called Introduction to Tantra. And this is one of the clearest elucidations of this material that I have ever read. So if you have not read Introduction to Tantra, please do. And if ever anyone asks you, what is this about? Point them in that direction, because he's very, very clear. So he explains, I am part, in other words, he's part of our lineage. He's this transmission of Lama Yeshe's. These great beings, we've had a number of really wonderful, fabulous teachers come through our lives and still are present for us. So we turn to that idea. If you don't have a specific teacher that you have confidence in and that you trust, then Tara is for you. This is how it is for me. I have many teachers and I adore them. But when it comes to who is my root guru, who is my root connection, it's Tara. There is Generally, this is not encouraged, but there is a precedent, there is previous experience of very great yogis attaining awakened mind through their relationship with the practices of Tara. So we can have confidence in that. So for us, when we do the refuge prayer, when we invoke the Guru, Guru, it's a Sanskrit word which literally means the darkness dispeller, the one who helps us to dispel the darkness of our own mind. When we realize that there is a possibility, a potential for awakening, we're definitely talking about opening the window inside of our brains, inside of our heart, inside of our mind. This is what the Dharma does for us, that brings the light in. And so life starts making sense, and it starts becoming workable, and we are able to experience great joy. So this is the Guru, the darkness dispeller, the lineage of teachings. We've received these teachings from all of these great masters, and I'm doing my best to share whatever I have with you. Then we come to the enlightened ones, the Buddhas. Shakyamuni was the Buddha that lived on our planet 2,600 years ago. And Tara is the goddess that we have been introduced to, who is always available to us. These lineages have given us teachings. Explore the teachings, work with them. When you receive this information, when you work with this, really reflect deeply on the meaning behind these things, because this is what produces your foundation, is the meaning behind these things. And know that the lineage, the enlightened ones, their teachings, and the community of those who are diligently practicing with the intent to awaken mind, that they are all a source of support and inspiration to you. This is another one of our basic foundations, to develop sources of refuge and work with them. Then, and these are this is the common foundation. This, we have to start with this. And then we need to commit ourselves to this journey. It doesn't have to be some big deal. Sito Rinpoche, when he was giving teachings one year, we asked him about what is it that we have to commit ourselves to? And he said, commit yourself to being the best you can be. Nobody can ask you to do more than that. And so in that way, we are doing our best to realize our enlightened potential, whatever we need to gather around us. So the final thing is to assert that whatever we achieve through this practice, that it's not only going to benefit us, but we do this knowing that it's going to benefit every being that exists because of our interconnectivity. So, and whenever we acknowledge that, every single time we say it, we think it, we speak it, we sing it, the mind orients itself around that and develops its direction into the subtle power. So we want to continually assert that we do this practice not only for ourselves alone, but for the sake of all beings. So now I invite all of you to dance refuge with me. I invoke the presence of the lineage of teachers. I invoke the presence of the enlightened ones. I invoke the presence of their teachings. I invoke the presence of the community of practitioners. I am inspired by the lineage of teachers. I am inspired by the enlightened one. I am inspired by their teachings. I am inspired by the community of practitioners. My path is supported by the lineage of teachers. My path is supported by the enlightened ones. My path is supported by their teachings. My path is supported by the community of practitioners. Until the heart of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the three jewels. I will attain enlightenment. For the sake of all beings. Until the heart of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the three jewels. I will attain enlightenment. For the sake of all beings. Until the heart of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the three jewels. I will attain enlightenment. For the sake of all beings. So, the basic foundation has been set, has been established. Now we invite our beautiful Tara into our presence so that we're sure, we feel right now, we feel that she's before us, surrounded by all of our sources of refuge. And there are certain cultivations that you need to do before you can engage in the practice of Ngondro. Although we can start, actually, with what's called the ordinary preliminaries. Okay. The ordinary preliminaries. So Ngondro has two sections. The first one, the ordinary preliminaries, are introduced right as part of the foundation, right after refuge and bodhicitta, because we need to look very carefully at our life and determine certain specific ways of thinking, modes of thinking. If we do, then the practices have a tremendous amount of impact. They function, they work. But without an understanding, without this basic sort of a view of our life and our life in this world, without that, then we cannot bring to fruition the possibility or potentiality within the teachings. It's very difficult. And in fact, there are many practices that that can actually cause a disturbance, a mental disturbance, if we haven't explored these ordinary preliminaries if we haven't explored them well. So I want to, okay, I'm going to read this to you so that I know that I'm covering all my bases. So we start by an explanation of Ngondro. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are a number of esoteric practices that work directly with energy transformation. In order to engage in these practices safely, a group of preliminary practices are recommended. When we are working with the energy centers, the mind must be stable and clear. These preliminary practices assist us in stabilizing and clearing the mind in a powerful way. That was Miri telling me to slow down. Okay. Many great yogis continue with these practices, no matter what other more esoteric work they do. I had a very dear friend who was at one of these monasteries where these really great yogis lived, these tremendously accomplished yogis, the kind that stop bullets with their bodies and can read minds and heal and so forth. And he asked one of them, what is the practice that you're doing there? And he said, Ngondro. You do it your entire life, these practices. They're a means to assimilate the various challenges that life offers us, helping us to use the power of all our experiences toward the goal of enlightened mind. The first set of practices, called the ordinary preliminaries, include the four thoughts. The second is the extraordinary preliminaries, and these include prostrations, vajrasattva, offering mandalas, and an empowerment of the connection with the head of our lineage, which is Tara. Okay, so the ordinary preliminaries. Now you've heard me give teachings on this before because I think it's so very important. The first ordinary preliminary is to contemplate the precious human body. We have to recognize and be grateful. So this is the condensation of this particular aspect, this thought, for me, is gratitude. We have received all kinds of information from our neuroscientists about the power of the grateful mind, how important it is for our stability, and then, according to these teachings, our clarity. We have to see that our situation is exceptional so that we can take advantage of it. We can work with it. We can manifest the fullness of its potential, because this is what our human life is offering us, is the potential to awaken mind. According to these teachings, it's not available in other dimensions of consciousness. It's not available in other realms of consciousness. The hell realms, the hungry ghost realms, the animal realms, the half gods and the full gods don't have this opportunity. Only the human realm has this opportunity. There are enough challenges, enough resistance for us to penetrate that creates a tremendous amount of energy. And this energy allows us, when we meditate, when we work with these practices, we need to have two atmospheres. One is penetrating concentration, and the other is relaxation or openness. Our ultimate mind, we need to be able to open into the infinite spaciousness of our ultimate mind. At the same time, we need to be absolutely clear and present with relative mind. So only this can be manifest in a human form. So we have to be really grateful about this. First, we meditate on this precious human existence, free from the unfavorable conditions, well endowed with the 10 opportunities. Now, this is a study, this is a practice. If we're working together, I definitely will share with you what those things are. The 8 favorable conditions, the 10 opportunities, difficult to obtain. Now, here's the tricky part. Difficult to obtain. The force of our mental design leads us to experience different realms of consciousness, different realms. As I just mentioned, the hell realm, the hungry ghost realms, it depends on where we place the mind. It's very important to place it in a wholesome way, because this human body is easily destroyed at any moment. Get ready to die. Now, if we use these practices appropriately, at the moment of death, we have the opportunity to move into a greater consciousness. But we have to prepare for that. If we're not prepared, then we simply are moved along by the power of our karmic connections. Wherever the mind is habituated to hang out, that's where we go. So we need to really develop the capacity to maintain the mind of wisdom and compassion, because then comes the next ordinary preliminary contemplation, death and impermanence. We really want to understand the world and all it contains is impermanent. The life of beings is as fragile as a bubble of water, isn't it? The time of death is uncertain, isn't it? And when dead, our body will be nothing but a corpse, mind no longer present. At that time, Dharma is of benefit, so practice diligently. Practice diligently in preparation for this great opportunity of the death of this human body. Number 3, remember, these are the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. We need to examine them. We need to examine them, understand them, reorient ourselves. When the challenges of life occur, we want to bring the mind to stability. Always, it doesn't matter what it is, to remember, first of all, I'm here to manifest wisdom. I'm here to radiate compassion. I'm here to be skillful and powerful, to bless others. I invoke my sources of refuge and ask for their guidance. And I commit myself again to this journey of awakened mind. How can I use this opportunity, this moment, this challenge, this obstacle? How can I use it to help manifest awakened mind? Always go there when something arises that causes the emotions to be stirred, whether it's in the direction of depression or in the direction of anger, jealousy, greed. Wherever you feel the mind being possessed by negativity, bring it back to what we're trying to accomplish and use that power. So then we come to number 3, karma, cause and effect. Again, explore your life. Now, well, anyway, I'll go through this and we'll get back to that. At the time of our death, we may not obtain freedom if our previous actions take control of us. Let us therefore abandon harmful actions, use our time to carry out beneficial actions, and daily let us examine the stream of our being. Shakyamuni Buddha, in his approach, in his attempt to awaken, knowing that there was so much suffering in the world, how do we deal with the suffering? He determined, examine your life, examine your life. So good to study the 4 noble truths and the 8-fold noble path. Here we examine karma, cause and effects. Are we hurting or helping? taking or giving? Are we immoral sexually with the idea that we harm others through our sexuality, or do we consider others? Do we promote discord but harmony? Do we lie but tell the truth? Speak idly but purposefully? Aggressively but kindly? Do we have negative thoughts? Do we harbor negative thoughts or positive, helpful, encouraging thoughts? Do we covet the position or possessions of another? Or can we rejoice in the virtues, merits, and achievements of all beings? Do we hold incorrect views about the Dharma, but do we seek the truth? When we know the truth, do we live by the truth? Let us explore the 6 poisons. What are the 6 poisons? Greed. Where there is greed, let us establish generosity. Where there's hatred, let us sow love and compassion. Ignorance, wisdom. Desire, equanimity. Jealousy, rejoicing. And arrogance, humility. Let us instill the 6 perfections. All of this takes effort. It takes effort and examination. Look at your life and align it. Align it. The 6 perfections: generosity, skillful means, which is ethics and compassion, patience, perseverance, meditative absorption, and penetrating insight. Then finally, number 4, the unsatisfactoriness of conditioned existence. We ask that all places, friends, joys, and possessions in the cycle of existence continually torment us because of the 3 kinds of suffering. So, the 3 kinds of suffering need to be examined. We need to see, is this true for me? Is life really, what makes it so that we're suffering? Well, we don't get what we want. We get what we want and we lose it. Or there is this subtle suffering that occurs in constant dissatisfaction. This hurts, that doesn't hurt, I want this, I don't want that. There's a constant movement. When we examine this and relinquish it and open to the experiences that we're having and use them to generate the energy of awakened mind, then they're not suffering. But we must cut off attachment and diligently engage in whatever activities will allow us to accomplish awakened mind. Okay. The 4 thoughts. I know that I say this a lot, but we really need to get this. We need to understand this is the foundation. This is why it's called ordinary. You should chant this every day to remind yourself, so that we turn away from the confusion of the mind, and we become clear and stable. When you're working with the teacher, then you do this first until you really acknowledge that it works for you, that you understand it. Because then when you move into the extraordinary practices, you're prepared for the energy that gets created. Because now we're doing a more serious operation. That's all a surface observation of the lay of the land, so to speak. Now, when we go for the extraordinary practices, we're ready to really examine in an experiential way, because the literal activity leads to an awakened experience. So the first one now is the extraordinary practice of refuge. So I'm going to read this. In order that we become suitable receptacles for Dharma, and that all our actions lead us on the path to enlightenment. We recite, and I'm going to recite for you, okay? So now I want you to imagine this. Use the power of your imagination. Sit with your back straight, close your eyes, and experience this. In front of you, in the middle of a lake, is a magnificent lotus flower. There in beauty and glory sits Mother Buddha Goddess Tara, surrounded by the 21 Taras. In the sky, around them are Buddhas, Idams, Dharma teachers, Dharma texts, Dakinis, and protectors. You imagine that you are surrounded by sentient beings, standing on the grassy shore, together with all these sentient beings that fill space. We all go for refuge together. We develop the thought of enlightenment. Now, at this point, so with this image of Tara and the 21 Taras and all of your sources of refuge before you, you are going to do prostrations. Now, many of us have gotten to the point where the knees no longer function, the hips no longer function in a way that makes it possible to do a complete prostration. So modify it. You can do it just body, speech, mind, and bow to whatever degree is comfortable. But you imagine that you're doing a full prostration. So I'm going to read this. When we place our hands on our head, we sweep away all negative actions and obscurations associated with the body. We receive the blessing of an enlightened body. When we place our hands on our throat, we sweep away all negative actions and obscurations associated with speech and receive the blessing of enlightened speech. When we place our hands at our heart, we sweep away negative actions and obscurations of the mind and receive the blessing of enlightened mind. When we touch the ground, now imagine that we do a complete prostration. With the 5 points of our body, we cleanse the 5 poisons and receive the blessing of the 5 wisdoms. So this is the mentality. This is the mentality. And the prayer that you say when you're doing the prostration. Venerable Tara, Mother Protector, Teacher, Friend, and Guide, in you I take refuge. I will attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. That's completing the prostrations. And yes, 100,000. Now, the reason for this large amount is so that you can lose yourself in the practice, that you can use the power of your mind now to really produce this, because you're going to want to be able to see this in an instant, whenever you choose. You're going to see it in front of you, and then we're going to develop the capacity to see ourselves arising and disappearing, using the power, using our energy body to do this. When you complete however many, and you can do 3 prostrations, you can do, now, every Ngondro has its own rules. You have to work with a teacher. You have to work with someone who transmits this. It isn't something that you can just pick up and do. So you engage with the teacher. The teacher will tell you. So in my case, when I did Ngondro, we could not miss a single day. If you miss a day, you go back to the beginning as far as the counting is concerned. So, you know, at one point I had accumulated 17,000 prostrations and I missed a day. I went back to 1. But that was fine with me. I understood. It was something that was a commitment that I made. I don't require this. I don't require this. But I do require that you're consistent, that you recognize I missed a day. It's not a confession, but it's an awareness. I missed a day. And you go back to doing, because if you want to receive the benefit of the practice, You have to be as consistent as possible. When you complete your prostrations, until the heart of enlightenment is reached, and you think, I will go for refuge to Divine Mother Tara, the teachings of the Dharma and the Sangha of support. My life is fruitful. I've obtained this most excellent human existence, and I'm a part of a lineage of awakening. In this way, I invite all beings to share in the fruits of my practice. May the precious thought of enlightenment continually arise within us. May it increase more and more. Without being separated from the thought of enlightenment, we strive to live a life of wisdom and compassion. And then the four immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings dwell in bliss, free from all suffering. May all beings dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and free from aversion. And then we imagine that all of these beings that surround us melt into us, that all the beings in the sky melt into Tara, and Tara melts into us. So this is the first extraordinary practice. Now, you can do the practices, you can do all four. There are four extraordinary practices. You can do all four at the same time, or you can concentrate on one. So in my case, I started with the second one, but I'll explain that after we take a little break. The second extraordinary practice is the practice of Vajrasattva. In Vajrayana, there are two activities that continue repeatedly through all the sadhanas. And one of them is purification, and the other is accumulation. Purify, we need to let go of our sense of inadequacy. And in order to do that, we have to address any time that we have engaged in activities that were not wholesome, that caused a separation rather than a unity in the mind. Remember, it's our mental experience that's going to make all the difference in everything. So if we experienced a division between people that's caused by, if we see that, it doesn't matter if someone steps away from us, we continue to love them. But if in our heart we close the door, then we have a problem. We are diminished. Whoever we put outside of the circle of our love diminishes us. And on a subtle level, now it's very interesting. We could call it a subconscious level, because as Westerners were more familiar with that term. In our subconscious, we are guilty and afraid. We're afraid of the universal response to our behavior because it's automatic. It's automatic. So we want to cleanse ourselves of whatever in the past we have done to create harm. And so this is the practice of Vajrasattva. This is what Vajrasattva is inviting us to do, to cleanse ourselves so that we can be free of the past gripping us in guilt and fear. Now, okay. When I encountered these practices, I had a lot of resistance. I definitely had resistance to the whole idea of refuge. Just, I couldn't get my head around it, especially to the lineages of transmission. I couldn't, to enlightened, I just couldn't get around it. And so I could not do the prostrations. I tried. I did, like I said, I did 17,000 of them before I finally threw in the towel and said, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I had the instruction to do Vajrasattva first. If you find resistance, go to the place, try to cleanse yourself of whatever that resistance is, because the mental resistance often is you're clinging to some part of your persona that identifies you, and very often the identification is not a wholesome one. Very often this is this whole idea of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, I can't have enough, I can't do enough. This comes from a lot of external forces, as well as we are allowing ourselves to engage in this way in our mind about our own stream of consciousness. So we want to stop that. We want to cleanse it. So yes, you can do Vajrasattva first. Do Vajrasattva to cleanse it. It's such a beautiful practice. It's so beautiful. Again, we're using the power of our imagination. We're also utilizing the visualization of light pouring through us. So in this practice, now those of you who've done Vajrasattva before, you know how to do this. We have this beautiful recording of my friend Bava singing, and of these aspects, all these different aspects. It's an easy way to learn the mantra. The long mantra is not an easy, it's 100 syllables, and it takes some time and effort to learn it. So I recommend that you get this tape, and listen to it and follow it and learn. Now, the dance that we do to the mantra, it helps us to learn the mantra and also to learn the meaning, because what we're expressing, the Sanskrit, this particular mantra is Sanskrit, and it has a literal meaning. In its literal meaning, it addresses samaya. Now, samaya is the connection that you have with the lineage, the connection you have with Tara, but mostly it's the connection you have with your own profound mind, with your wisdom mind. When we enter this path, we're making a commitment. The commitment is not necessarily to anything outside of ourselves. The commitment, as Sita Rinpoche said, is to be the best we can be. That's to our own awakened mind that we're making that commitment. And so this practice, this prayer is saying in many different ways, I recognize all the aspects of awakened mind. I renew my commitment. I renew my commitment. And in that way, I let go of whatever is holding me back. So this is the practice of purification. And 100,000, you'll be happy to do them. Because as you go through this, you start really experiencing a lightness of being, a lightness of heart. So I wanted to invite you to imagine in front of you, let's see if I have this. I do. Okay. So here's the meditation. Please engage with me, okay? We're going to do this as a meditation. And then we're going to dance through the mantra a couple of times, okay? But I want us to do the meditation. In order to realize our highest potential, the awakened mind, we establish our strong intention to be of loving service, fostering compassionate understanding, cultivating the wisdom of seeing all is interconnected, dancing atoms flowing in joy. Now, see this visualization as clearly as possible. Above your head, a lotus of rare beauty blooms. It is a white lotus. In its heart, there's a full moon cushion. And sitting on this cushion is Vajrasattva, a beautiful young man, the immutable truth of existence. His body is glowing white and flashing with ornaments of joyous mastery. His beautiful face is shining, His right hand holds a Vajra, the masculine thunderbolt of compassion, at his heart, and his left hand holds a bell at his hip, the feminine melody of wisdom. Rays of light emanate from his heart, inviting countless light beings, teachers of wisdom, all enlightened energies. So imagine this, light radiates from his heart, inviting all light beings, all teachers of wisdom, all enlightened energies that melt into him. So we open to him as our refuge. We reveal all our obstacles, our pettiness, our confusion, the harm we have done others, our quarrels, our pain. We look at the world and all the endless problems beings perpetuate through their ignorance and ask that all of this be purified. In Vajrasattva's heart center, in the midst of a snowy moon, the syllable hum arises, and the 100 syllables of his mantra revolve about the hung and emanate crystal light. The light fills his body. He stretches his right foot out and touches the top of our head with his big toe. The light pours into our body, purifying, bathing, blessing, filling every cell with light, washing away all our pain, all our resistance, all disturbance, all disease, purifying all our connections, all our relations. The light fills our body and disturbances leave us, falling to the earth, fertile earth, for the flowering of wisdom. Now, when you're doing this as an accumulation, you start the mantra here. And then you stop and do the different sections of the meditation. So you can accumulate however many mantras you want, but you want to continue with the meditation. So this is the first setup of the meditation. So now the mantra. We hold our hands out, imagining this Vajrasattva is above us. Om Vajrasattva. So we pick up the Vajra and the bell. Samaya, we make the connection with the person standing next to us. Manupalaya, we ask that our commitment be guarded. Vajrasattva, stay near me, tenopatishta, steady me, drido me bhava, gladden me, sutakayo me bhava, enrich me, supokayo me bhava, be loving towards me, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayacham, give me all the powers of truth. Sarva karma susang me, may my actions be done with purity of mind. Chitam sriyam kuruhum. Oh, Bhagavan, the blessed state, blessed one. Sarva Tathagata, all enlightened ones, stay with me always. Vajri Bhava, make me immutable. Mahasamaya Sattva, this is the great commitment. Hum. Continue to meditate. Imagine that this mantra is going on. Once you memorize it, you can say the mantra while this continues to occur. Crystal light pours into our body. It touches our old destructive habit patterns, dissolves our thoughtless, compulsive reactions, our anger, our impatience, our arrogance, our despair. It dissolves our greed, our tendency to judge others, our grasping and confusion. The light pours into us. Our bodies are clear. It frees us, opening us. Difficult and challenging relationships are cleansed by the light. We let go in freedom and in joy. The light pours into us. Our bodies are clear, radiant, crystals. We emanate the light of purity, wisdom, and compassion. The rays of light touch the beings close to us, filling them, purifying them, freeing them. The light radiates out from us, concentric waves of pure crystal light, touching every person, every animal, every sentient being in our community, blessing them with the light of wisdom and compassion. The light pours into us from the radiant Vajrasattva above us. Beams of crystal light from our purified body radiate out into the surrounding countryside, pulsing through the continents and oceans of the world, embracing the entire earth, blessing the birds of the air, the creatures of the sea, purifying all communities, countries, and peoples. Of hatred and greed, of fear and ignorance, the radiant light of purity, of wisdom and compassion. Our bodies are pure, radiant crystal light. Vajrasattva, the immutable truth of existence, assures us that we are free. He blesses us that we remain steadfast in our commitment to manifest the enlightened mind of wisdom and compassion, seeing all as interconnected, dancing atoms, flowing in joy. Vajrasattva, the immutable truth of existence, melts into us. We are inseparably one. Please open your eyes, look around the room. It's a very powerful practice. I encourage you to do it as much as you can. Combine the mantra with the practice. The third extraordinary practice is the mandala offering. Now this is, we purify and we accumulate. These two practices, these two engagements. This is an extraordinary way of focusing those energies so that our foundation is strong and clear. We're no longer gripped by a sense of guilt, of inadequacy. We cleanse that and we pour our light and share that liberation with the world. Okay, I have the feeling that I want to open this for questions before we go on to the last two. I'm not sure I have time to do both of them, but let's see what questions we have. Can we, there we go. Oh, goody. Oh, how nice to see all your beautiful faces. Look at this. Okay, so tell me, are there any questions up to this point of anything that I've shared with you? Wave your hand. Okay, so Noelle, if you could please spotlight. Hi.
Paula.
What is your question, my dear? Yeah, I see you.
Okay. Yes, can you give a short definition of what is Ngondro?
Practice.
Just
Ngondro is practice. Extraordinary practices. Yeah.
okay.
Preliminary is another word. Foundation is another word that's often used.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Raise your hand.
I'm going to Min.
Okay.
Prema, I don't see you. Okay. Para practice, full thoughts turn to Dharma, refuge, and bodhicitta, prayer of motivation. And for immeasurables, I practice every day, every morning. But the more I practice, I feel like I can practice this forever. There's always something more that I can, it's like mirroring me that I can see myself and I can practice. It's so profound indeed. And after Tara mantra, before for immeasurable to close the prayer, I also chant Heart Sutra, but some reason I had a lot of resistance with Vajrasattva practice. I have to tell you, I try, and then I make all kind of excuse that, well, I'm listening to music, but I don't know how to do this 100 syllables mantra properly. I can't pronounce it. Maybe that's why I have resistance. Many excuses that every time I tried to practice, I couldn't practice. Last night, I had a dream that we are in a mandala offering, and my praise was true refuge. And I couldn't remember my praise. I didn't have the dance, but it was we have to come out. The mandala had to come out, no matter what, whether prepare or not. I was so frustrated. So this morning, I walk and listen to the birds and had wild blackberries from walking and come back. And some reason, okay, this is, I don't know, I didn't know that Prema, you will teach us Vajrasattva practice in Ngondro practice. I had no idea, but I wanted to read it. I want to read it. And okay, forget about mantra, you don't pronounce properly, but let's read. And I found that it's so profound. So what a medicine you gave. And I had such a resistance that I'm not gonna take it. Like I have such a like push it away, like I'm not gonna take it. It's so
Okay,
powerful
so
meditation.
Min, what I would suggest is that we have a meeting, you and I'll go over the mantra with you so you can pronounce it correctly, no problem.
Today, when you give meditation, I don't have any resistance. It was so beautiful. And I feel like, what did I do that I had such a resistance with this blessing? This is such a medicine. Thank you. This is my confession.
Oh, I see. It's no question. Okay.
Well, it's a question that how come it's so difficult to pronounce the mantra?
We never know where the obstacles in our mind sit. We don't know where they sit until they appear. So, but there are many different ways of dealing with them. Vajrasattva is one of the best ways, but if that doesn't work for you, there are other ways of dealing with obstacles. That's basically what it is. So, but I'm glad that you were able to make the connection with Vajrasattva. That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing. Okay, anyone else? Any other hands going up? Ah, Sherry, yeah. Beautiful. Hi. Can't hear you, sweetheart.
I'm out of practice. Goodness. It's nice to see your face and hear your voice. I just returned home and I appreciate this talk today. I learned something really awesome that with physical problems, so shoulders and whatnot, can't do prostration. So I said, oh, can't do it. So today you just gave such a great solution. You don't have to do all physicalities, you work around it, but you're still putting your mind where it needs to be. Thank you for that. I just like gave it up, like, oh, okay. And the other thing is, when I'm home and I'm alone, I am disciplined. I do my practice. I have my times. Everything has its slot. But as soon as I go somewhere, and that could be to the other side of the island, that could be to Mexico for 3 months, all my practices just, they went out into space, and I didn't have a practice anymore. And I would start Zooms and it didn't work. And then I would start the practice and it was time to go somewhere. And I started getting frustrated. And so I just let it all go. I just let it all go. And my question is, how do you stay disciplined when you travel? When you're out of your routine place, because that's the ultimate, isn't it? To practice everywhere, all the time.
Yes.
Anytime, anywhere. But I found
Yes.
myself just gone away from my practice.
Do you do mantra? Not at all.
I was not at all now. Everything
When you're
just stopped.
traveling, you don't do any mantra at all? Uh-huh. Well, I recommend you do.
Okay.
Part of the problem that happens is when you do a formal practice, it takes time and it takes a setup and it takes a whole thing. So you have to recognize that when you're traveling, you don't have the facility to do that. But you can do small things. So I recommend that you have a very simple practice that you do, like you do motivation, refuge and bodhicitta, the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, and the qualities of Tara. That whole business takes less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
If you just
Wow.
chant it, it takes less than 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then when you find yourself in a situation when you're traveling, you have lots of blank space. Say mantra. Wear a mala and say mantra. Don't worry about the quality of your practice because it's not possible, but you engage as best you can. It's helpful that way because you want to have a stream of practice going all the time, if you can.
Exactly.
And eventually, that's what happens. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. You know, you meet someone, Om Tare Te Tare Ture Soha. You hear somebody's problems, Om Tare Te Tare Ture Soha. You see a beautiful landscape, Om Tare Te Tare Ture Soha. So, you know, or you have a stomach ache, Om Vajrayana Samaya. You know, you learn to use the mantra to engage. Definitely say the prayer blessing before you eat, or at least Om Ahum. You start making it a practice, and then no matter where you are, it's inside your mind where it's all happening. So it's up to you to keep consistent. You figured out how to do it at home. You can figure out how to do it in your car when you're driving. You have to
Okay.
memorize these practices, or if you can't memorize the practice, then you've just got the mantra. But definitely the practice of the qualities, it's so easy to memorize that thing.
Yeah.
Homage to the rare and precious, to the venerable Mother Tara. It's easy.
Yeah.
So do it. And eventually, you know, and take your time to make it a challenge to memorize the praises. Because, you know, driving from one side of the island to the other, you've got what, 20 minutes, 30, 40 minutes almost. Yeah. 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 So you're by yourself in the car. Figure out how you can memorize the whole practice.
Okay.
It's really important. I was just in this wonderful book of Lama Yeshe's that I'm studying right now. He said, you know, it's really important to be able to do the practice without reading it. Without reading it. This is one of the reasons why I recorded all of these practices and why I recorded the mantra. So you can do them without having to read it because it uses a different part of the brain.
Right.
And he says, memorize as much as you can. And I agree with that. Yeah, memorize as much as you can. So that's what I see.
Okay. I feel like I just got pulled out of everything. It was bizarre, but anyway, it was good. and I got to connect with you a few times, and that was centering, but my practice. So it's my discipline. It's my discipline I need to work on.
Yeah.
And these are wonderful suggestions. Thank you, Prema.
Okey-doke. Okay, darling, any other questions or comments that you want to make right now?
Amina has her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, Prema.
Hi.
I for a while was like really distant and not doing practices, and I started again, and I've had a practice for a long time, but before I even get out of bed, to do refuge and bodhicitta and Shantideva, and I love the Vajrasattva. I remember when I first heard it, I thought, how can I learn it? And I just had to learn it. I had to learn it. And I have two questions. One is with Vajrasattva, often when we do it, when we're doing a series of practices, like at the morning practice, if we do it, or Medicine Buddha, we do it at the end. But today I heard you say that it would be good to do it before you do the extraordinary practice, the other extraordinary practice, like the mandala or Medicine Buddha or whatever, to do it early in the practice as opposed to at the end of the practice. So that's question number one.
Okay, so to answer that, a practice is something flexible. It's not something set in stone. The whole idea of the practice is what serves you. And so with many sadhanas, you'll find we start with Vajrasattva to prepare the ground. And then we end with Vajrasattva if we made any mistakes or we didn't, we weren't accurate in our engagement. So we have a choice. Now, with me, with the Ngondro practice, well, I received the transmission from Lama Tenzin, and I started engaging with the refuge prayer. But my motivation was strange, and I wasn't getting anywhere inside. I was getting frustrated. And that was when Kala Rinpoche said to me, you don't know what you're doing. You have obstacles. So do something about the obstacles first. So it served me to start with Vajrasattva. I was about halfway through when whatever the obstacle was just disappeared. And then I was able to start the prostration. So I actually completed the prostrations and Vajrasattva at the same time. Like I say, some people do the whole practice in a sitting. It takes about an hour. Some people only do 3 prostrations a day. It's all individual, whatever works for you.
Okay.
This is where
I had to laugh when you said about doing practice in the car, because when I used to work, I used to often do the practice driving to work and go through the whole thing. The one thing I've never been able to memorize, and it's kind of funny because it's appropriate now, is the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. So what I found was when I first was attracted to these practices, it was the prayer of motivation and refuge and bodhicitta, because I suddenly realized, oh, this is kind of what's already really happening, and I could relate to it. I had names for it. So now over the years, many years, there's been different pieces that I've really focused on, learning all the praises, for instance, in order. And right now, what's really drawing me is to finally memorize the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, which it's about time that I learned that, considering my situation. But so I've written them out as a little, like what do you call it, like a cue card, to help me remember, because that's where I'm at right now, is focusing on that. And those contemplations have been very fruitful and deep for me. And Forrest is arriving right now. I'm talking on the call with Prema, with Dash, and some gifts for me and Tibetan bells. So I'm going to go. Love you guys. Thank you,
What's your
Prema.
second question?
Oh, mantra. the one thing I'm not attracted to is the Tara mantra. That
Okay.
I have lots of mantras that I do that I'm attracted to, and I will do it. But it's kind of funny. I've always thought that is so weird. I've never really been attracted to doing the Tara mantra. So what that means is I can do it, but I don't get any sense of what it's doing for me. That was the question.
Uh-huh. Well, you know, the 3 meditations that we do when we do the Tara dance, both the dance of the qualities and the dance of the praises. Those 3
Yeah.
meditations are what you should be doing when you're doing your mantra, the Tara mantra. So practice in that way.
Okay.
You know, the purification of the elements, the empowerment, using the power of your offerings to empower others, and the Tonglen practice.
Okay.
Use the mantra that way.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I love your Medicine Buddha meditation and the purifications in there. That has been so revealing and supportive for me. And it's great at this stage of life, near the end of stage of life, to know exactly what my direction is. And those purifications elaborated the way you do on that meditation have been super helpful for me. So I notice, oh, I'm having aversion. Oh, I'm having, attachment is really, really helpful. So yeah, love to everybody. I'm going to go now because my
Okay,
beloved
sweetheart.
have arrived.
Love to you. Bye.
Hi.
Oh, here she is.
Dosh, come here.
She's my protector, my enrichment, and here's Dosh.
Hello.
Love to all.
Okay, bye.
Hugs and kisses, everyone.
Oh, my. Whew, okay, so that was lovely. Anyone else have something they want to share or, okay, Hope?
Thank you for this timely teaching. I feel like I want to cry. I've been feeling like a lot of negativity arising in my mind in the last month or two, and kind of working overtime to keep it together. But I feel kind of isolated, and even though I have my practices, somehow I think I really do best, in the in-person Sangha. But one of the questions I had been wondering about was like, oh, do we have a dance to work with? Yeah, like destroyer of negativity. And then as you're speaking today, I'm like, sounds like Vajrasattva. And I think it's normal to have the crud come up, right? So then how to address it. And also, I think I really have been missing the structure of, being in a living community that is practicing together. But there were a lot of choices for this afternoon because I thought, oh, I should really try to plug in with some kind of local Sangha thing. But I'm like, no, actually, these are my people and this is my practice. So I would really like to engage in this with you and seek further direction. But in the short term, I'm feeling like maybe working with Vajrasattva, even just to kind of clean things up a bit here, to get clear, might be
Yeah, that should definitely help.
because I actually think they're really good. So I actually love that you did the 2 together.
The 2 together?
Well, you said that when you
Oh,
ultimately,
yes, the refuge.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. That's how I accomplished. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I guess
we have to shape the practice for each individual to make it work for you.
Yeah. So if you were to answer that question, do we as a Tardatu have a dance that is addressing that negativity? Would you say Vajrasattva? I don't know.
Yes, I would definitely say Vajrasattva. because it doesn't matter what it is, wherever it's holding, you're simply washing it. And another aspect of the Vajrasattva practice is when you engage with Vajrasattva, you imagine that whatever is falling away from you, whatever guilt or fear or resistance or whatever it is, that it falls to the earth. And the earth is fertilized by your past behavior. It's so that it creates the flowers of your wisdom.
Beautiful.
So that's very helpful to realize that that's what's happening.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing this.
Yes.
Woohoo!
And of course, you know, I mean, every day there's practices, right? I'm sure you engaged with our online
do.
community, and I will be definitely coming to your part of the world, to the great Northeast,
Yep.
to dance and sing and give teachings. So I'll be seeing you then. And of course, there's also Portland and where we'll be doing teachings, and then there's the Munlam in Brazil, which I understand you are coming. So you're going to be with us, but at least we can, you know, be together online. I mean, I'm so grateful for that.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
actually I do my best when I'm leading online, and then I'm like, whoo, it all comes in for me. But anyway,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hang in there.
I'm hanging. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Hope. Okie doke. All right. Anything
have
else? Anyone
Kala.
else have something
I'm
you
gonna-
want to share?
I'm going to bring up Kala.
Kala. Okay.
There you go. Aloha, Prema.
Aloha.
Hi. I love Vajrasattva, and I've been learning the mantra and doing that. And I had a question for you. Lama Lena does a lot of Facebook Live recordings. And one she did on Vajrasattva, she brought up the crack in the earth with the, the whatever it is in their demon who will eat our negativity as delightful. So I was very interested when you just said our negativity can go to the earth and be flowers. That's kind of a nice thing. And she also said something that I liked, where it was, imagine it's like hair conditioner and all of your negativity so easily comes out, which was kind of a cool visualization for me. But I wanted you to comment on these two things, if you would, please.
Okay. Well, you know, there are so many versions of these practices. Though, you know, every lineage that I've associated with has some form of Vajrasattva. A lot of the lineages that we've received, it's Yabyum, it's Vajrasattva with his consort, and they're sitting in sexual embrace, and the liquid is coming from their sexual organs. So you know, everybody's got their thing. I decided on the one that was most meaningful to me. One of it comes through the Karmakagyus, but one of the teachings that I've studied was Trungpa. And he was the one who said, I had heard that it leaves the body like smoke, and the smoke falls to the earth. But he was the one who said, and it just becomes compost. It's just compost. And I love that idea of our negativity. He said, you know, if you don't deal with compost the right way, it just becomes garbage. It's just stinky. But if you know how to create compost, then it actually grows your flowers. And I thought that is just such a perfect expression of what happens from my perspective, that we have all these experiences, and we want to say that the bad experiences were bad, but actually they weren't. They created what we are today. They made it possible for us to be what we are today. So in fact, it grows the flowers of our wisdom if it's dealt with appropriately. So that's how I feel. For me, there's no crack in the earth with any demons eating anything. That's Lama Lina's thing. So God bless her. She's a trip, that woman. She works
She
right on.
is.
She's a trip. And the whole idea about the cream rinse in the hair, why not? If it works for
Mhm.
you.
Well, it's a
Exactly.
easy visualization, but I like the smoke. And as a gardener, we know that the compost, you put the wet and dry in, and it has to be turned. So maybe it's a totality more than just negativity. Maybe we can also send blessings down, you know?
I'm sure we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. All right. All right. Mahalo. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's very interesting. Mitty and I were just talking about wanting to visit the Big Island and thinking, who do we know there? So
Well, you
maybe
know
one of these
me,
days. Yeah, I know.
and
Maybe one
there's a
of these days.
beautiful little Tibetan center here. Well,
It's-
besides the one in Kona, too. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
two
it's great.
centers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all
Yep.
right. But Wood
Okay,
Valley
darling.
is sacred. It really
Well, it
is.
is. And then my friends Joel and Michelle have a little center also there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
All right.
beautiful.
Aloha.
Okay, bye for now. Okay, darlings, any more? Anyone else with the hand raised? How are we doing, Noel?
Priya does. Priya's got her hand raised.
Okay, Priya. Priya is the reason we're doing this at 9 o'clock this morning for you Hawaiians. Yep, because I understand Kachina's blessing is happening today, and so I didn't want to interfere with that. So tell me, what's up, Priya?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you so much for doing it early. And because I am going to leave soon, I'm supposed to pick up Jasmine and Treya and get there at noon so we can have a feast and share our thoughts and celebrate Kachina. So thank you so much, though, for this. This is so precious, this teaching. And I'm very, very, very grateful for your insights. It was the first time that I felt like I was able to really visualize the refuge. And I do have a question, though, about like all the lineage teachers, who they all are on the refuge tree for the Tara Datu refuge tree, which I don't know that you want to answer now, but at some point, maybe the next Zoom call, you could talk more about the lineage of the Tara dance refuge.
Right. Well, that mandala, that refuge tree or refuge lotus that Midi created, it's not totally accurate. So I'm sort of pulling that until we get a little more accurate. But basically, my teachers were Lama Tenzin, Taisita Rinpoche, still very much present for me, Jamgon Khantrul Rinpoche, Kalu Rinpoche, Dhammo Kushok.
Mhm.
Those were my main teachers. But I've had, Lama Kunga, of course, was also very much involved in our Tara dance work as well. So
that tree is all of them above your head.
yes, so in that tree that you received, they're all there.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so at some point I wanted to know who is who. I know most all of them, but there were a couple that I was like, I'm not sure who that is. So at some point I'd love to get clarification for that. And then just the other thing I really wanted to share is while you were talking about Vajrasattva, what's been coming up for me for the past month is that I would really love for us to be doing Vajrasattva on Zoom at least once a week as an offering. And I feel called to offer that. I'm not sure when, but then today I thought, well, maybe I could do it Friday morning before the Tara daily prayer practice that I lead. Maybe just a half an hour of Vajrasattva, whoever wants to join me.
I would recommend you do it to Bava's tape.
Okay.
Because the meditation is
dance
there, the
movements?
mantras are all there. It's perfect.
I usually always play it, the Vajrasattva, before I lead. But so I haven't done it with the dance movements though. So to do it with with the dance movements that you created.
Yeah. I was
particular-
thinking maybe I would do an introductory practice of Vajrasattva. So we can determine when is the best day that you're willing to maintain it. Once a week is a great idea. So let's talk about that.
Thank you.
Yippee!
And I'll have to go soon. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, let's get back to, I just want to mention the last two practices because we don't have time to go into them. The third practice is the offering of mandala. And this increases our merit. So we're constantly giving the universe for 100,000 gestures. We're giving the entire universe and all it contains and everything that's precious to all of our teachers, to all of our sources of refuge. And I can tell you, when you're doing this, the world becomes golden. The universe becomes golden, offering this beautiful mandala practice. It's a little complicated to learn, and I will definitely at some point do a class on the mandala offering as well. So that's that one. And then the final practice is called Guru Yoga. And because Tara is our guru, because she is the head of our lineage, she's the one that we put in the center of this practice, this particular practice. And now it's something that I created specifically for this Ngondro. And I want to go through it carefully. So the next time we get together, I'll do those practices with you, aside from whatever else I decide to put together. So I'm just going to say the dedication prayer now, and then I'd like us to dance the four immeasurables and Om Ahum. So the dedication prayer is, having offered this oh, wait a second, wrong dedication prayer. Where's the dedication prayer? Here we are. Okay, so Notar has been in front of us all this time. We imagine that she moves to the crown of our head and she dissolves completely into light and merges with us, that she's inseparable from us, and our body melting into our heart dissolves into light, into infinite openness. We then arise as Tara, and we pray by the power of this practice that all beings may awaken to their true nature, enlightened mind. Here it is, the dedication I was looking for. Again, Tara appears before us and we pray. Glorious Tara, pervading all phenomena, grant us your blessing to realize the absolute spontaneously arising knowledge. Mother Goddess, who understands the intrinsic nature of all phenomena, whose true nature is compassion, you seduce all negative forces. Invincible One, Supreme Guide of beings, grant me your blessing so that I may attain perfect liberation. Grant us your blessing so that uncontrived aspiration, devotion arise. Non-distraction is the body of meditation. The nature of every thought which arises is new. The essence of thought is nothing, yet it arises. Grant me your blessing so that the indivisibility of samsara and nirvana be realized. Grant your blessing that my mind may give up ego clinging, so that contentment may arise in my being, so that non-dharmic thoughts may cease. My own mind may be realized as unborn. I pray all beings without exception experience the undying state of permanent bliss by merging supreme knowledge and methods and come to realize awakened mind. By this virtue, having realized awakened mind, grant us your blessing so we may quickly establish all beings without a single exception in this state. Through the blessing of the unchanging truth of Dharma and the unwavering aspiration of the Sangha, may this dedication prayer be fulfilled. So now we end with the four immeasurables and Om Ahum.
Our hearts, we rest in the wisdom of interconnectedness. We are all together in this wonderful adventure of life. We offer each being in this wide and wonderful world love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May this wish increase more and more until it bathes the whole world.
May all beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far.
Body, speech, and mind empowered. Throughout this radiant and abundant universe, we gather our offerings, transform them into wisdom nectar, and pour the blessing upon our world, giving everyone exactly what they need. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. My beloveds, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful. I will have another Zoom meeting to complete the transmission of this information. Xenia, thank you so much for your translating. It's really precious. It's so lovely to see so many of our beloved Brazilian dancers joined today. That was really fun. It's really sweet. So all of you have a fabulous, fabulous time. For those of you in the Northern continent, summer is here. Yahoo yippee. For us, we're cold. It's 78 degrees. Oh my gosh. Okay, beloveds, be well. Thank you so much for coming.